Put your soul like ether. Teach you the king, you know you. Godson across the belly. I prove you lost the bet.
There you go. A good Monday morning, one and all. It's Moose and Keith with you right here on the Better Sports Network. We got you right up until high noon. Lot to get into, for sure. And the NBA gets us going with what was an unbelievably disastrous performance by the Philadelphia 76ers. Maybe it shouldn't come as a surprise given that it is, Doc Rivers and James Harden and Joel Embiid. But another long summer down in Philadelphia, Keith. Good morning to you. Hopefully you had a nice weekend. And we kick it off with a little NBA reacting as the Celtics march on to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, Moose, it was a very nice weekend. Good Mother's Day. And I hope you guys had a good Mother's Day as well. But you're right. Like, it's not surprising, right? And that's the problem with the Philadelphia 76ers. And that's the problem with Doc Rivers and James Harden and Joel Embiid. For all that Embiid is, he was the MVP this year. For all that James Harden is, he's going to be a Hall of Famer someday because of the offensive numbers he's put forward over his career. Led the NBA in assists one season, has led the NBA in points per game. For all the good that Doc Rivers has done, he won a title with the Boston Celtics, and he routinely has teams in the conversation for best in the NBA. I don't know. What has it all gotten us? We're sitting here on Monday, and if you're a Sixers fan, you're disgusted. Like, if I were a Sixers fan last night or this morning, like a diehard Sixers fan, the ones that, throw remote controls at televisions when their teams lose, I feel like I wouldn't have wanted to eat breakfast this morning. I feel like maybe I would have thrown up last night. Like, I don't know, because you can't lose this series when you're up, when you get Tatum to do what he did in game 6 through the first 3 quarters, and then obviously have a good fourth quarter. You can't lose it. You can't lose this game and this series when you're tied at 55 and then get blown out by 180 points. I'm kidding, but you know what I mean. This was as bad of a loss as you can get.
Yeah, it was a terrible loss. I thought the Celtics were going to win the game, and said yesterday on the Fan when I was doing a morning show that I thought they'd win the game by daylight. But I also didn't think it would necessarily play out the way that it did, where that was a game, and it was tied at 55, as you mentioned at one point in time before Boston went on that run, and there was no response by the Philadelphia 76ers. And listen, you saw Kendrick Perkins come out and say that this is not on Doc Rivers. Well, okay, it's on all of them. I mean, nobody doesn't deserve blame for the way it all went down. Philadelphia lost their opportunity to win the series when they didn't put their foot on the throat of the Boston Celtics in game 6, and they allowed Tatum, who was atrocious that game offensively for the better part of 3 and like a half quarters. Last 6 minutes of the game, he played like an all-NBA player, and it was hitting one big 3 after another. And they just allowed the Celtics to hang around, even though Tatum was horrendous, because Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown, even though he had struggled dribbling the basketball, were very, very good that game. And you saw the adjustment by Missoula by putting in Robert Williams and Al Horford down low defensively. And those two together down low are two of the better defensive forward pairings in the NBA when you look at it analytically. So Philadelphia lost their opportunity to win this series in game 6, but then you get just the kind of the culmination and the add insult to injury by the fact of the way it all went down in game 7. And we'll get to the Embiid comments after the game as well, which were more than just a little disheartening.
You think?
But Philadelphia, Philadelphia it's going to be a case of, for Daryl Morey and company, back to the drawing board. I know the Harden defenders are going to say, well, he won 2 games in the series, game 1 and game 4. And Joel Embiid, I'm sorry, if you're, we're going to celebrate everybody for going out and winning, celebrate him for going out and win the MVP of the regular season, which I didn't have an issue with. But there were people that were, talking and ripping Nikola Jokic for being a stat padder and, when he was averaging a triple-double and all of these things. Well, I mean, you had Joel Embiid in a game 7 on the road in Boston where I saw, Dominique go mano a mano against Larry Bird years ago, where you've seen MJ. I mean, you've seen a number of star players go in. I know the arena has changed, but go into Boston as a city in a pivotal game and have monster efforts. Joel Embiid scored 15 points. James Harden was atrocious yesterday afternoon. He really was. So when the team needed him most, he scored 9 points. He was, threw up air balls. He was an atrocity on the court last night or yesterday afternoon. And now Philadelphia, and if Houston, which amazes me, I saw the Woj report and saw it at the All-Star break, and continuing to, maybe it's being used as leverage. The fact that maybe he goes back to the Houston Rockets, which would be a complete rebuild because he's got family down in Houston. I mean, who wants any part of a declining James Harden right now and is willing to spend, pay him basically max money here moving forward? No, thanks. I'll pass. And, Houston's going to welcome him back with open arms when basically he spit in the face of the organization by showing up 30 pounds overweight, and it was fat. And all he did was care about partying, but the Rockets are going to go out there and pay him. I mean, this is the problem you have in the NBA now, but they could do whatever the hell they want to do. That's Houston's problem. If I'm Philadelphia, second best player on the team is Tyrese Maxey. Make no bones about it. I mean, it's Embiid and Maxey. James Harden is not consistent enough at this stage of his career to be that kind of a guy. But when you look at the importance of Harden, that was a game yesterday that he needed to step up. But more of the blame falls on Joel Embiid or Doc Rivers for not getting Embiid the basketball down the stretch in Game 6 of that series, where they're passing the ball out for a PJ Tucker 3, and Joel Embiid's not getting the necessary touches that he needs. So I mean, there's so many different layers. It is a disaster of epic proportions when you look at Philadelphia, but maybe one that is going to be a learning lesson for this 76ers organization. Now the question is, where the hell do you go from here?
I'd like to know how injured Joel Embiid truly is. I think that we maybe don't know. I have this sneaky suspicion that there's a lot more to the knee issue than we even know. The fact that he didn't touch the ball in the final 3 minutes of Game 6, the fact that he goes 5 of 18 shooting yesterday, and at times kind of, I won't say lethargic. I don't want to say he looked lethargic. He looked pained. Is that a better way to put it? Maybe that's a better way to put it. But the old adage is, if you're on the
archaic system,
what's that?
I don't know. I was just hearing something in my ear. All right. What the old adage is, that totally threw me for a loop. I have no idea what that was. I was just hearing, like, it sounded
all good.
Sounded like
so. What's the old adage?
So the old adage is that if you're on the court or if you're on the floor, like you're playing, like don't worry about injuries. Like you have to be able to play. If he was too injured to be able to be competent, then don't play him. Then don't keep him on the court. I mean, it's as simple as that. So be Embiid or don't be on the court. And they needed him to be Joel Embiid. They needed him to be some semblance of MVP. And he wasn't. Now, on the flip side, as much as we're going to rip the Philadelphia 76ers, got to give a lot of credit to the Boston Celtics for battling back from down 3-2 and, playing through some down moments for Jason Tatum and playing through growing pains for Joe Mazzulla. I think clearly there were growing pains for Mazzulla. There were. He looked outmatched at times. Came up big in Game 6 and Game 7.
Yeah, he did. I mean, putting Williams and Horford together, like I mentioned, I think was one. And Marcus Smart talked about his coach learning. Also having, Tatum deserves to be applauded. Like I joked around about when Steph Curry took 38 shots and scored 50 points. I mean, Tatum last night or yesterday took 28 shots and scored 51 points. I mean, that's where that deserves the applause. I mean, that really does. I mean, and Tatum bouncing back, he took the momentum off of what he did fourth quarter, Game 6 against the Philadelphia 76ers, and put on an absolute show yesterday afternoon, against Philly for Boston as he drops in 51, and their duo combined for 76 points. I mean, you think about it, Tatum and Brown almost outscored the entire Philadelphia 76ers team. I mean, that is a major kudos. Philly scored 88. They scored 76. I mean, that is a monster performance from Brown and Tatum. And Tatum was spectacular, playing 42 minutes. Brown played 41 minutes. He needed his running mate. He got it. Brogdon coming off the bench, Mr. Sixth Man of the Year. The defense from Horford and Williams down low. You talk to a lot of NBA executives, everyone tells you that, Boston is the most talented roster of any team, than when they were going into the playoffs. Not now, when they were going into the playoffs. And yesterday was a perfect example. They got to knock down their threes. They were 15 to 33, shot 45% from behind the arc. When they're doing that, Boston's basically unbeatable.
So the Celtics get to a conference final for the second consecutive time, 5th time in the last 7 years. I mean, you want to talk about just putting it all together. And then on the flip side, Doc Rivers now 6-10 career record in Game 7. If I'm correct on this, I don't believe Joel Embiid has ever won a Game 7. And we've seen all the struggles of James Harden. Yeah, there's some issues there in Philadelphia. Side note, because our chat is blowing up right now, and I would have forgotten. So we got to thank I'm right on this one. Yeah, I guess Baby J at some point this week needs to come on and sing because the Knicks lost to Miami.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into Baby J, and he's going to have to sing just like as Matt Deutsch sang.
Yeah, what did we say? Will Smith, he's going to do Welcome to Miami. I think that was the choice.
I think that was it, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading through the chat. I love our chat. They're having some fun.
No, all good. We'll get into that. Let's hear from Harden first,
okay.
if we have it, on the relationship with his head coach, Doc Rivers.
When you got here, you said that one of the reasons you wanted to come, if I'm not mistaken, was Doc. How has your relationship been with Doc, and would you like to see him back?
Our relationship is okay.
Yeah, I mean, he just says, yeah. I mean,
it's okay.
Right. I mean, what do you? That's an
tough
impossible
question
spot
at
to
that
put
time,
in.
yeah.
Here's Doc talking about the Embiid injuries.
The kid deserves a break. He really does. He deserves one shot to just be 100% throughout. I don't know if we would have won this series, but I would just love to have him one time where we don't have issues. I haven't had that opportunity, and Joel haven't had that opportunity, and that sucks for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the issue. So he's talking about the knee, and he's talking about him not being healthy. We talked about Mr. 51, Jason Tatum. Here he is after a big Game 7 Celtics win as they march on to take on the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. Take a listen.
I think, coming off last game, obviously finished strong, but not starting off, the way I wanted. And especially with our season being on the line last game, I was just excited to we had another opportunity today as a team and for myself just to kind of bounce back and I was relieved. I was happy about that, just to get another chance, because our season could have been over Game 6 and just being in another Game 7, being able to come back home in front of our fans, I was really excited just for the moment. To come out here and play today. It definitely was in my mind that, I had played as bad as it could get for 42 minutes or 43 minutes, whatever. And, I say we have a saying, it's only up from here, right? And, to be honest, they had us on the ropes in Game 6, right? The end of that third, going into the fourth, the game was back and forth. The crowd was into it. They had us, and we figured out a way to win. And that was a great feeling to win that one and to come back home, and have another opportunity.
Yeah, there you have it. And he said, I mean, once the Game 6 went final, I would have been stunned if we were talking about a Philadelphia win yesterday afternoon. Didn't necessarily think it would look as bad as it looked at times for Philadelphia. But I would have been stunned if the 76ers won that Game 7 on the road. Embiid's comments has gotten a lot of criticism, or, has gone viral all over the place. Here's Joel Embiid, who scored 15, dealing with a knee injury after the game and Philly's elimination.
I can't win alone. I can't win alone. Me and James, we just can't win alone. That's why basketball is played 5-on-5. So, we just need everybody to just, try to keep finding ways to get better, and, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, listen, interesting comments from Embiid, taken out of context a little bit, talked about guys, improving, everyone around them improving, working on, motivation and doing some little things during the course of the summer. What was your take on what Joel had to say after the game?
I would say that Tyrese Maxey during these playoffs had 33, 25, 16, 26, 13, 13, 14, 30, 26, and 17 points. Each one of those games, he hit at least one three-pointer in every single one of those games, ended up averaging almost 4 assists per game during the postseason. Listen, I agree with you. Sometimes things are taken out of context, and there was more to that quote. There was more to the questions. It's also one of the reasons why A lot of these athletes don't love going to the post-game dais right after a game when you lose a hard-fought series and your season is over, because sometimes you do say things a little bit not the right, correct way, right? Like, I would imagine, maybe I'm wrong, but I would imagine that if Joel Embiid had another 15 minutes or a day to think about how to answer that question, he probably would have put the onus on himself and James Harden, maybe, because they're the two veterans. He wouldn't have said, like, we can't win this alone. So those are those stats, right? And there are other guys on this team too, but like the Tobias Harrises of the world, he's right. Like, they struggled this postseason, except for that last game. Tobias Harris had 19 points. But anyway, I think that Embiid in that situation, maybe you'll disagree. I don't know if you will. I think he needs to fall on the sword and say, this is on me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's kind of out of character, but then why am I paying you? If it's going to be about everybody else, then why am I paying you and James Harden what I'm paying you? Because you've got to go out there and shoulder the burden. Tatum knew it was on him. He scored 51. Brown knew it was on him. He scored 25. Jaylen Brown went out there and outscored both Joel Embiid and James Harden in a game 7. Think about that combination. And Brown's an unbelievable player. He just is. But, you would have thought that Harden, who was 3 of 11, 1 for 5 from behind the arc. Embiid was 5 of 18, 0 for 4 from behind the arc, and he finished with 15 points. Harden, when he was on the court, was a -30. Embiid, when he was on the court, was a -28. You mentioned Tobias Harris has also changed his role. I mean, Doris Burke has talked about this as well. I mean, he's a guy that's getting well paid. I understand nobody's going to cry for Tobias Harris, but still, when Harden comes aboard and you've got Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris has changed his role and done some of the dirty things and done some other things for this Philadelphia team, and is as glowingly or asked and gone out there and done it. So I look at it, and to me, it's surprising that Embiid would say what he said. I think the pushback that he's going to get, I think, is only natural. And you're probably right. If he had a little bit more time to think about it, he would not have answered it the way that he answered it. There's a little bit more to it. I think that's what drive NBA players nuts too, because that was specifically cut to make Embiid look as bad as he possibly could.
Yep.
Instead of getting the full explanation. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass. It's a very, very raw moment. You just lost by 24 points in an elimination game and got embarrassed in that third quarter, embarrassed on the road. So I'll give Embiid a little bit of a pass, but you can't be saying that. I mean, that's one of the things you can't be doing after the game. When you're a star player in the league, the responsibility falls on you. When the MVP of the league, it falls on you. I mean, I don't think I ever heard Michael Jordan say, well, I need more from, the 6th, 7th, and 8th guys off the bench. Like, he demanded more from those guys.
Yeah, me and Scotty can't do it on our own. I really need Jed Bushler to step it up. I don't know.
Yeah, like you never hear that. I mean, at least not publicly. I mean, and I get it, but here's the other issue: if you're a very top-heavy team, and what I mean by that is when you're paying a couple of guys or 3 guys in particular a lot of money, and that is Harris, Harden, and Embiid, it is very, very difficult then to have an overall great depth to your team. It just is. You saw it with the Phoenix Suns. You've seen it with other teams. They're going to ask for more from your starters and more from your stars of the team and the impactful players, because organizational depth is not all that great.
Yeah. It's interesting. You look at the 4 teams that are now left in the conference finals. In the West, Denver Nuggets, deep team. They have a super uber star. They have a perfect Robin to the Batman of Jokic in Murray, and a bunch of really good ball players. The LA Lakers, for all that Rob Pelinka has gotten wrong in LA, he got it all right at the trade deadline. Got Westbrook out of there, got Pat Bev out there, got Young, got some guys that filled roles around Anthony Davis and LeBron James. The Boston Celtics have a lot of depth. I mean, they have the 6th man of the year, right? And even Miami. I think the wheels are going to come undone for Miami, and I think this is going to end up in a 5-game series. I think there's just so long that you can roll with what would be deemed usually as mediocre depth. But that's the difference between, I mean, Miami's got the best coach left over, and he has figured out how to get the role players into the right spots, the Duncan Robinsons of the world, the Caleb Martins of the world, and Gabe Vincents and Max Struses. Like, these are not household names. But Jimmy Butler's their leader. Kyle Lowry is a guy that's won a championship before. And you got a bunch of guys that are willing to fight tooth and nail to try to win games. The 4 deepest teams are the ones left. And maybe the 4th team, Miami, is the deepest necessarily, but they have the best coach. So that's how I would put that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Spoelstra's, Malone's really good with Denver too.
Yeah, he's done a good job.
But right, Ham hasn't done enough. Who knows? He's done a really nice job this year, but you don't really necessarily know. And Missoula's has gone through some issues as a rookie, but Spoelstra clearly the best coach of the bunch. Yeah, it's just that Miami's talent sometimes, especially without Tyler Hero or overall depth, is you say, well, what are they capable of? Well, they went out there and beat Milwaukee in 5, and they took care of the Knicks in 6 games. Before we get on to some of these other series, kind of preview the East and the West, there's a lot to get into. Oilers eliminated last night by the Vegas Golden Knights, and, Edmonton is done out West. Did want to mention one thing. The last guy I need to hear from right now as Philadelphia got eliminated last night was Ben Simmons. And, he can hop on Instagram, and, Kendrick Perkins, had a great quote tweet as Simmons posted a picture wherever he was watching the game. And at that point in time, the Celtics were up by 30 and beating the Philadelphia 76ers. And Perkins said, well, it's fitting because he's been watching basketball games all season long. Like, Ben Simmons is like, I don't care. Like, yeah. I really don't. And the less you care, I think the better it'll be, because I don't care if he was watching the game. Great that he's watching the game. He barely plays, as Perkins mentioned. Like, he was his own worst enemy. I know he went through a lot, and he's been through he refused to shoot the basketball, hasn't improved his game. When he got out of Philadelphia, went to Brooklyn, he's barely played, has dealt with a back issue, dealt with a number of other issues. The Nets shut him down this year. I have no idea. And at one point in time, it's kind of sad to say, like, Ben Simmons, when his star was on the rise with the Philadelphia 76ers, looked like a guy that was going to be able to do it all outside of shooting, but be able to guard every position in the NBA, given his size, the handle he had, the distributor he was, being able to get to the rim, not a great free throw shooter, but the work ethic and the evolution of Ben Simmons has come to an end. But that's like, the Philadelphia 76er fan could care less about what Ben Simmons has to say. Like,
was that Twitter or Instagram?
I think it was on Twitter, I think.
Then he removed it. I'm on his Twitter right now. I don't see anything from Ben. Ben Simmons hasn't tweeted.
No, it was on Instagram.
It was Instagram. Okay.
Yeah, it was on Instagram. Yeah. You can find it. It's out there. I don't know if he removed it, but he sent it out. It's on Instagram. So the last guy I need to hear from is Ben Simmons. And I agree, Baby J. He's not even a basketball player anymore. So get lost. Go work on your game. Actually go out there and play in a meaningful basketball game. I mean, you're just collecting the checks. I mean, that's really all that it is. Ben Simmons is collecting the checks and wearing goofy outfits on the sideline. I mean, that's really Ben Simmons' greatest claim to fame right now.
Is it? I'm assuming it was his Instagram story. I'm looking right now. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's
home.
there.
Beautiful home.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. He's making like $35 million a year.
He's got a bottle of Smart Water, a glass of wine, and the Celtics Sixers game on. That's beautiful home. Really nice. Very nice, Ben. I don't know. That's all I got for you.
Okay. Very nice.
Very nice home.
We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about the Knicks getting eliminated by the Miami Heat on Friday night. We'll touch upon that. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Monday right here, Better Sports Network.
Vegas Raiders have traded up to 35, and they give up the 38th overall pick. In addition, a 5th-round pick goes to Indianapolis as the Colts trade down. The pick is in. And, Coop, your top 2 tight ends, best tight ends available, are now off the board as Michael Mayer is going to be the Darren Waller replacement in Las Vegas, catching balls from Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe somebody else in the future. But Michael Mayer is off the board. The Raiders have traded up, and I always look at this too from like dynasty fantasy football standpoint. I always like the guys that are traded up for. Michael Mayer gets traded up for as he is off the board now at pick 35. He goes to the Raiders. How does he fit in this system? Not only with Jimmy Garoppolo, but also Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, some significant pass catchers there, including Hunter Renfrow now.
Eric, I love that you pointed that out because that's the part of the draft that people forget when they're doing their analysis. They think about the draft capital. They think about the landing spot. They forget the draft narrative, right? This proves to us that the Raiders, at the very least, had Michael Mayer as high as Sam Laporta, or maybe even higher, because they're looking around and saying, all right, that guy's gone. We have to get this guy right now. And this guy probably is a better fit for what Josh McDaniel wants to do. He's used to Rob Gronkowski. He's used to Hunter Henry, these two-way tight ends that can block and run routes down the seam. Sam Laporta is not going to do that. He's only 240 pounds. This guy is your prototypical real-life tight end. That's why a lot of people were saying he's the best real tight end in the draft. Clearly, pass catching is at a premium. That's why Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta went first. But this guy's going to fit really well into that scheme. My question is, when does he become fantasy relevant? Because the vast majority of tight ends that are fantasy relevant are top 2 targets on their team, with Devontae Adams there and Jacoby Myers there,
that's not happening.
and Hunter Renfrow there. I mean, when does it happen, Moose? How long do we have to wait?
Yeah, forever. It might be a while. I mean, when you look at it, but I do think he's a great fit.
As I walk in the shadow of death, 16 men on the dead man's chest. Your host is
Moose and Keith with you on a Monday right here on the Better Sports Network. Kicked it off, talking a little bit about the Celtics elimination of the Philadelphia 76ers yesterday afternoon, Game 7 on Mother's Day. Harking back to over the course of the weekend on Friday night, we saw 2 eliminations. 1, the Knicks eliminated by the Miami Heat in Game 6. 2, the Lakers eliminating the Golden State Warriors. Let's start with the early game first. I mean, Knicks Jalen Brunson was great. RJ Barrett was brutal. Julius Randle was brutal in the game. We'll get Baby J singing later on this week as he loses the bet to Matt Deutsch. But overall here, you look at the Knicks scenario, it's, a successful season. My take on it would be, I look back and yes, missed opportunity. I get coulda, woulda, shoulda. When you look at this series, learned something about Barrett, learned something clearly about Julius Randle, learned a little bit about some of the complementary pieces on this team. IQ injuring his ankle, but playing poorly in the postseason certainly hurt the Knicks' opportunities and chances as well. Brunson is an absolute stud. He's clearly the franchise's best player, and he's the face of the franchise and the leader. But it's not surprising that Miami won this series if you watched all 6 games, because they were the better basketball team.
This is one of the most successful seasons in the Knicks franchise in the last 25 years. And I say that on purpose because there's a future. So this was not supposed to be the year that you went around in the playoffs. Like if you were a basketball, someone who covers the NBA and was setting up this season and picking who's going to make it to the second round, I don't believe a lot of people thought the Knicks were going to get to a second round. You now know, as you just mentioned it, Moose, you have your leader for the next 4 or 5 years in Jalen Brunson. Not only does he play really good basketball, he wants to be the leader of this organization. He wanted to be here. He wants to take the tough shot. He wants to make the right pass. I think he would like to play defense, even though, as you say, he's not very good at it. And that's a thing, right? Like to have a leader, to have someone that maybe other people would want to play with also, because I think he makes other people better. Now we need to figure out what Julius Randle is. I mean, he's an all-star. Can he play within a team system? I'm willing to see. RJ Barrett, can he learn how to shoot a basketball like for real? Not just every once in a while. Will he go to a shot doctor this whole summer? If he does, that trio is as good as many other trios in the NBA. And I think Tibbs has done a solid job as a coach. And I think they've got some good role pieces, like some bench players and role players around. No, this is the besides winning more rounds in the playoffs, I don't know how much more you could have asked of this group. This is a really impressive season by the New York Knicks.
Yeah, no, they had a good year. There's no doubt. I don't think you can scream and holler and talk about this year being a failure. Won a playoff series, embarrassed the Cleveland Cavaliers and Donovan Mitchell. They've got a long summer ahead of them. And, we're a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. All that is good. And everything you said is true. I think there needs to be adjustments. Like I think I don't think Randall and Barrett can coexist on the same team. I don't. I think you're limiting yourself way too much offensively. I think that's why the intrigue there. The Knicks have got to get shooters. You can't be as bad as they are, not only at the free throw line, but at the 3-point line, and be considered to be a championship contending team or a team that can go on sustained deep playoff runs. That's Julius Randle's had the great regular seasons. The interesting conversation is going to be within the Knicks organization is the balance. Thibodeau, very loyal guy. He's very loyal to Julius Randle because Randle was the guy that helped establish Thibodeau and the Knicks here. And, 3 years ago with We Here and going through the pandemic and all that, and was an unbelievable star and one of the more recognized athletes here in New York City. So all of that is true. Julius Randle in the regular season is a different player than he is in the postseason. We've had two different examples of that. And I understand he was coming off an ankle injury and, Reed sprained the ankle to some sort of degree in that Cavalier series. But he was terrible against Atlanta 3 postseasons ago, missed the playoffs last year, disastrous regular season. Knicks made the playoffs this year. And Julius Randle was not the, 27-9-5 guy against Miami that he was during the regular season. So you take that. Okay, so there might be limitations when you look at Julius Randle. Can he be the third guy on the wheel? Okay, so then you need a number 2. Is there really a number 2 on this team? You look at R.J. Barrett. R.J. Barrett's deficiencies are the same as when he left Duke. And he left Duke like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I mean, it's been a while for R.J. Barrett. He's too left-handed oriented. He can't drive with his right hand. He can't hit free throws consistently, and he can't shoot. I'm not telling you he doesn't work hard. I'm not telling you he's not a good teammate. I'm not telling you that he's going to we haven't even gotten to all the Ja Morant stuff. But, are you going to bank on all of a sudden R.J. Barrett, who's not been a good outside shooter since his high school days, is now going to find his outside shot as a pro? I mean, You could. I mean, if you're going to do that, or are you going to say, well, I have a feeling of what R.J. Barrett is as a player, and say that have been his limitations. They've consistently been his limitations, and they're going to continue to be his limitations as a player. So I don't know, because I do think you look at lack of ball movement. Randle has got to be successful offensively. He's got to have the ball in his hands. Barrett, to be offensively successful, has got to have the ball in his hands. Jalen Brunson, to be offensively successful, has to have the ball in his hands. You can't do that in the NBA in a series and expect to be successful offensively, especially when you have guys like Grimes, who's not a great three-point shooter. Hart's not a great three-point shooter. IQ, a guy coming off the bench. You saw the downturn and limitations to him at times this year. It could have been the sixth man of the year for sure, but is IQ now going to be your only shooter? The only 2 shooters that the Knicks have on their team right now are Emmanuel Quickley and Jalen Brunson. I mean, that's it. Randall's a little bit better this year than he was last year. Give him credit for that. I just don't know if you look at it and say, all right, here's the balance. I know what I'm going to get from Randle. I know what I'm going to get in the regular season from Randle. He's going to be a guy that is going to give me the consistent performance. He's not looking for load management. He's not looking for time off. He feeds off the extended playing time. I can trust Julius Randle. All right, so then I'm looking at him as a guy because I have to have regular season wins in order to make it to the postseason. But then what is his role come the NBA playoffs? That's where Leon Rose and company, when you look at the Knicks, have really got to go to work this offseason, because this year was a massive step forward. Everything that you said is true. But on the whole, when you look at this group, is what are they capable of doing? Is it a case of, okay, well, they're really young, they're all gonna improve? Or is it a case of, I look at some of these young bodies and say, yeah, I believe as an organization, this is where it's going to get hard, that they're only capable of this. I need to go outside this organization and go get something else, whether it be Karl Anthony Towns from Minnesota, whether it be Dame Lillard from Portland, whether it be Brandon Ingram from New Orleans. I need to go and see if I can use some of the draft capital that I do have, and some of the young players and young assets that I do have to go get a player that can be that running mate to Jalen Brunson. Because there's no doubt you've got, amazingly enough, after all the years of coulda, woulda, shoulda with guys like LeBron, Wade, Anthony Davis, just to name a few, Russell Westbrook, that it was Jalen Brunson who stepped into the room, took on the responsibility and the pressure of being a Knick, and raised the expectations of and level of this entire franchise. And he is an absolute gamer, because he was not 100% dealing with that ankle injury in this series. And honestly, Jimmy Butler was the most talented player on the court. The best player in the series was Jalen Brunson.
So I don't know how you feel about, because you just mentioned a bunch of names. How do you feel about the NBA trade machine? You ever mess with it a little bit?
I don't, no.
All right, so I typically don't. I know people swear by this and love it. So, and again, it doesn't allow you to add draft picks. So you'd have to add draft compensation there. What are the names you mentioned with Damian Lillard, right? So if the Knicks were to try to get Damian Lillard, this trade is deemed successful monetarily, and then you'd obviously have to add picks. If you did Randall, Fournier, Quickly, Grimes, and like 2 or 3 first-round picks, you can get Damian Lillard.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to give up, but yeah, for sure.
Right.
I mean, but Lillard's also got to be a guy that wants to come to New York, and then you have to look at what Lillard and Brunson would look like as a backcourt. That's why it's so like intriguing to look back on, what ifs. When you look at Donovan Mitchell last summer and the one that slipped away as he ended up with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I've seen a lot of Knicks fans after the Cavs got eliminated and Mitchell struggled against the Knicks and say, well, thank God we don't have Donovan Mitchell. Or it would have looked decidedly different with Donovan Mitchell in New York as it did with Donovan Mitchell in the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Because if you go
and you give me a backcourt of Mitchell and Brunson, and I have Julius Randle as my number 3, do you know how much that opens up the court? Because that's what we're really talking about when you're looking at really premier offenses in the NBA, is the ability to spread the floor and have opposing defenses having to play you honestly that can open up the driving lane. See, when you watch the Miami series, something that, Cleveland, did not learn is Miami did. And Miami also had, I would say the defensive wherewithal and the coaching, because Spoelstra is clearly a better coach, is we're going to dare you. You can't beat us from behind the arc. We know you can't beat us from behind the arc. You might get hot for a stretch. You might get hot for 5, 6, 7 minutes and knock down 3 or 4 consecutive threes. But all in all, you're going to play to the back of your basketball card. Yeah. And you are not going to be able to do it. So we're going to take away the lanes. We might flash and you might be able to have a lane, but then we're going to have tremendous help defense and we're going to take a charge. We're going to make it extremely uncomfortable for you to be able to take it toward the rim. And we're going to take that all away. You want to pass it out to Quentin Grimes for a 3 or RJ Barrett for a 3 or Josh Hart for a 3. That's fine. We don't think they're going to consistently make it. And they didn't. And that's the differentiation where you look at, if you had a guy like a Donovan Mitchell, how much that would have opened up the floor and the spacing on the floor for a Julius Randle to be able to do what he does more often than not during the regular season. Like, people want to, and shame on the Knicks fan for, tearing down his poster and then stomping on it after the game, outside Madison Square Garden. I mean, those guys are clowns. But I mean, I've seen Knicks fans do that before. You go back way back when Patrick Ewing was at first deemed to be, a disappointment here in New York. They had Patrick Ewing poster night, and there were Knicks fans that were ripping the head off of his poster at Madison Square Garden. So you've seen this before with Knicks fans. Like, that's clown behavior. Julius doesn't deserve that. He was a deserved All-Star this year, and he was a deserved third-team All-NBA, because that's based on what you do in the regular season. The same question I would have is, am I now all of a sudden going to take Joel Embiid's MVP away because he scored 15 points yesterday in a 7th game? No, I'm not, because Joel Embiid was the deserved MVP of the regular season. There's a difference now, and just similar in nature when you look at the players. Now, there's different caliber of players. So if I'm looking at Julius Randle, he's clearly not as impactful as Joel Embiid is as a player. But have we seen Joel Embiid? Now, you can blame the injuries. I could also look at the ankle injury of Julius Randle. I could look at those two players and say, are they better in the regular season than they are in the postseason? Historically speaking, they probably have been, right? More so, Case Embiid's been good in the postseason. Julius Randle's been more of a disaster in the postseason. So now for the Knicks, you have to answer the question is, what do you believe is real? And take the emotions out of it, take the loyalty out of it, and look at this team and say, honestly, how can we get better? Because the team is dying and desperate. Brunson's an answer. I don't know if Barrett is. I don't know if Julius Randle is. I think you can keep one of them. I don't think you can keep both of them. And I also don't all of a sudden think RJ Barrett is going to evolve into this player that, a lot of people thought he was going to be when he was coming out of high school, and he was the number 1 player in his draft class, because he hasn't developed up until this point in time. What would lead me? Everyone's going to tell me, well, he's so young. Right, he's so young, but he hasn't gotten better. Like, I'm sure he's worked on a lot of different things here. He hasn't gotten better.
I want Damian Lillard. That's who I want. If I'm a Knicks fan today, I'm sitting here and I'm asking upper management to do everything they can to get Lillard. I saw what Brunson was with Luka. They were great. Got to a Western Conference Finals. And I think that Damian Lillard, at this point of his career where he's trying to win a title, he'd be cool letting Brunson be the lead guard and play off ball and bomb away from three-point land. I think Lillard would be fantastic in New York. That's what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah, I'd go get Ingram if I could from New Orleans. That's what I'd want.
Okay.
I mean, I don't even know if he's available, to be honest.
I haven't heard that he's available. Yeah.
This might be pie in the sky kind of stuff, but I mean, New Orleans might be looking to change up some things as well. They're dealing with the headache of Zion never being healthy, playing 114 games in 3 years in the NBA. So they're dealing with that. No doubt that Zion's an unbelievable talent when he's healthy on the court. That'd be the guy that I'd be intrigued with. Lillard would be great. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns has got a relationship, and I do know that Thibodeau likes him. And he would be willing to obviously, would be willing to obviously coach him again. So maybe Cat out of Minnesota, maybe that ends up being a route that the Knicks go down. But they're gonna. I don't know if they're. I wouldn't guarantee that they do anything. They might sit on their hands and do absolutely nothing.
That'd be terrible. Can't just rest where you are, like. That would be the Philadelphia.
You can if the players are not available that you want. I don't think they're going to rush to do something just for the sake of doing something. That's my whole point.
How are they? I'm right. Says get Lauri Markkanen. How are they getting Lauri Markkanen? Like what do you? I don't. And even Jaylen Brown. Like I don't really think that Jaylen Brown. What do the Knicks have to offer the Celtics for Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, I think Jaylen Brown.
Right?
I think Jaylen Brown's going to get paid by Boston.
But even if he wasn't going to stay in Boston, like seriously, what do the Knicks have to offer for Jaylen Brown? Like Jalen Brunson. There you go. So hey, Knicks fans, you want to trade Jalen Brunson as part of a deal for Jaylen Brown? Like the Celtics are not taking Julius Randle, who the Knicks don't want because he can't play nice. Essentially, is what they're saying. Right? Is essentially what people are saying. RJ Barrett shoots a 3-pointer. The same way that Moose does. I don't know if Moose is a good 3-point shooter. I'm kidding. But RJ Barrett can't shoot a 3-pointer. Like, I don't really know. I suddenly feel like I'm on WFAN again. I'm co-hosting a show on WFAN with you right now, and people are calling in saying that we should trade Quentin Grimes and Emmanuel Quickley and Julius Randle and a ham sandwich for Jaylen Brown.
Yeah. Yeah, that's let all the speculation begin. I don't think Jaylen Brown's going anywhere. And the point about the Knicks not doing anything, I just think the players got to be available. I'm not telling you that the Knicks wouldn't react if the right player's available.
Sure.
That's the whole point. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. A player would obviously have to come here to New York, but Baby J, hang in there. You're on hold.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So yes, the Knicks have 4 first-round picks to offer anyone, but think about this logically. If you are the Boston Celtics, who have now gone to back,
I don't think they're not trading Jaylen Brown.
But this is like really makes zero sense,
right?
Like Damian Lillard makes sense. You want to offer 4 first-round picks, and Portland turns around and says we're just going to restart. That's okay. The Boston Celtics are not in a restart mode. They have been in back-to-back conference finals and have been in the conference championship 5 of the last 7 years. So you can offer them 187 first-round picks. What does that do for Jason Tatum next year and the rest of that organization? Like that's like I don't usually get angry about this. 187 first rounds are fine.
They might take that.
But you get what I'm saying here. Like I don't normally get angry about this stuff.
I'd probably make that trade.
All right, fair enough. It doesn't make any sense. The Celtics, if they were forced to trade Jaylen Brown, they are not trading him for 4 first-round picks. They're not.
Yeah, well, if they
don't want Julius Randle, they're not going to sit there and go, "We want New York Knicks leftover trash." That's basically what you're no.
Right. I mean, unless Brown, I'm right. Unless Brown says the only place I want to play demands a trade, and the only one place he wants to play is New York, then that changes the equation for sure. I think just on the if none of that happens, and it's just. I don't think Jaylen Brown's going anywhere. I don't. I think Boston, if they had lost Game 7 yesterday, then they could look in the mirror. They might blame Missoula. He might lose his job. They might bring in more of a win-now coach. I think then it would be inclined for Boston to move on from Jaylen Brown. I don't think they're going to do that now.
Also, where are these rumors that we're just writing this? If Brown demands a trade, which is what the rumors have been, what's their option? Moose, I don't know. Have you heard that Brown has demanded a trade?
No, I've not.
That's not a rumor I have heard, and I think that you and I are pretty well connected.
I just there's been rumors about him and Tatum being able to play together, stuff like that. That was
but that's like
last year.
Media talking. I have not heard a single thing from Jaylen Brown or anyone in Jaylen Brown's camp saying he doesn't want to be in Boston.
Well, no, there was some conversations last year, not this year, when they were struggling.
This year, everything's been fine. The only thing that we heard was when the Nets had inquired about Jaylen Brown, about making a deal.
Right, for Kevin Durant.
Yes.
Correct. We'll get into...
wasn't on the Boston side.
No, that was not on the Boston
side. We
got
to be careful just throwing things out there. I'm sorry, Moose.
We'll get into the Warriors getting eliminated by the Los Angeles Lakers. Baby J, hang in there. We'll get to you. We'll do that next. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Monday right here, Better Sports Network.
Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Better Sports Network.
Calvin Ridley yesterday, he applied for reinstatement from the National Football League.
Ridley, Kirk, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence. That is crazy potent on offense.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, Ridley's great.
I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy I want in fantasy this year.
I think you're probably right. I think they're just going to get better and better. First off, Peterson's a wonderful offensive mind, a great head coach, and we've seen that and saw that this year as Jacksonville made it to the postseason. And Trevor Lawrence, anybody that questioned whether or not he could play in the National Football League or just how good he was going to be in the NFL, those questions were answered this past season as in the second half of the year. Statistically speaking, he was a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. That's how good Trevor Lawrence is. You throw Calvin Ridley into the mix, he's going to be great. Yeah, I think Lawrence is a guy you want. I think Ridley's a guy you want. Clearly, Travis Etienne is going to be one of those early, first-round selections as well, being the dual threat running back that he is, not only running, but also catching the ball out of the backfield, Keith, and the ability to take something small and take it to the house. Take a 5-yard dump pass, make a guy miss in the open field, and he's gone. I mean, you saw that with Travis Etienne this past season for Jacksonville. Yeah, sky's the limit. I mean, I think you're going to go from a team in the year span where you wanted no part of the Jacksonville Jaguars when you're looking at fantasy football to where you want as many Jaguars as you possibly can because they're going to be really, really productive. And let's see if they get their tight end back as well, who had
Evan Ingram was great.
And Evan Ingram, who was great this past season.
Yeah. I mean, if they keep that whole core together, their offense is going to be one of the best in football. Like, I legitimately think that they could be one of the best offenses in football.
Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, then you throw
Ridley,
Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence, a good offensive line, and you've got Doug Peterson being creative calling.
Right.
And you look at that division. The Colts are a mess.
Yep.
Titans
look like they're on the downslide.
Titans are on the downslide, right? That window is clearly closed. And then you got the Houston Texans.
Years away from relevancy.
Yeah.
I mean, Jacksonville could win 11 games next year.
Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Better Sports Network.
Yaron Weitzman's going to join us top of the 11 o'clock hour. Mark Malusis, Keith Arizari with you. It is Moose and Keith on a Monday right here on the Better Sports Network. Baby J is with us, whose Knicks got eliminated on Friday night down in Miami against the Heat. Baby J, you ready to start singing at some point this week for Matt Deutsch?
Yeah.
For the Better Sports Network family.
I'm a man of my word, I started listening to the Miami song the other day, trying to get the lyrics down. That song sucks as bad as the Go New York, Go New York.
No, it's by Will Smith. It slaps, right?
Yeah, right. Slaps what? Chris Rock, that's about it. That song didn't even slap when it came out.
That's why we picked it for you. It's fantastic.
I know. I was listening to it. I'm like, man, this song sucks. Whatever. That's neither here nor there. Let me not get slapped. Run into Will in the streets. He slapped me. But anyway.
What changes do you want to have for the Knicks this offseason?
So the first thing we got.
What's the game plan, Baby J? What's the game plan?
We need a shooter. I need a shooter. Yeah. I need and it don't got to be anybody super crazy. Like, get me a guy like Buddy Hield, something like that. He has an expiring contract. I think he can play in Tibbs' system. He sit on the corner, let Jalen Brunson hit him some passes out there. I need a shooter. That's number one. I also need somebody here where the moment's not too big. And I feel that's the case with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. It's 2 times now in the playoffs, and they seem overwhelmed. And that's a problem. You can be as good as you want in the regular season, but if you can't turn it up, it's not going to work here. It's just not going to work. So I agree. We got to get rid of 1 or 2, but I'm not trading them just to trade them. So I'm not going to trade Julius Randle and end up with a bag of basketballs. Like, no, that's not going to work for me. It all has to work, you know? So it hurts, but I'm not disappointed. If I'm a 76er fan, I'm disappointed today.
Yeah, I think it's worse being a Sixers fan today emotionally than it was for the Knicks.
Absolutely. And then, of course, I know you guys know the stat of the whole game 6.
Yes.
Jalen Brunson shoots 14 for 28. The rest of the team had 13 combined field goals.
Yeah.
13. If RJ and JR each make 2 more.
Yeah.
2 more. I said RJ and JR. RJ and Julius each make 2 more. We're talking about game 7 tonight. That's the difference. That's it.
Well, no question. And here's the deal. I mean, Scott Foster tried his best, Baby J, the extender.
He sure did.
He tried his best. I mean, he did.
I'm trying to get his home
down
address.
6.
I'm trying to get his home address. I'm trying to send him a fruit basket right now. Like, he tried.
The flagrant 1, down 6, and 58 seconds to go. You made free throws, then a layup, and all of a sudden it's a 2-point game.
Yes.
Like, Foster's like, what else can I do here to get his MSG on Monday night?
I was sitting there. I was all mad. At the 6-minute mark, I'm like, the game is over. I text a bunch of my buddies like, it's over. And then the flagrant 1 comes. And my buddy from Miami texts me. He goes, they're trying to help you again. They're trying to help you.
They're trying to help you. The extender.
Listen. I'm like I said, we definitely got to make some moves. I love Damian Lillard. I would love for that trade. What's it going to cost? I'll give up 5 first-round. Get me Dame Lillard, So
yeah, I think it would cost you.
Guys. We'll see.
Yeah, you got to make the money match. Like I said, I messed with it, and like Fournier, just because the money would be a part of it. Either Randall or Barrett would have to be a part of it, and you probably have to do Grimes and or quickly, and probably at least 3 first-round picks. I would trade all of that for Lillard.
I would do whatever it takes to get Dame. Another guy that I'm looking at is Cap. If we can get Karl Anthony Towns over here, he already knows Tibbs' system.
Yep.
I need a guy that can match Bam Adebayo offensively.
Yeah.
Because as much as I like Mitchell Robinson, he brings nothing offensively to the game.
Oh,
he looks like he's one sweat mark slip away from just breaking his whole body. Let's be honest.
I mean, I would probably think about trying to package Mitchell and either Barrett or Randall.
Randall makes more money, so like that's for the price match of things. It kind of helps.
Baby J, when can you sing? When are you going to sing for us?
That's a good question. I can try to do it by the end of the week. I got to check what my schedule looks like. Make sure I don't got no meetings planned.
Yeah, let's aim for like Thursday or Friday. Let's make a goal Thursday or Friday.
I follow Ernie on Twitter.
Okay.
So I'll shoot Ernie a DM, and then I can work it out with him or something like that. That's cool.
I think that's perfect.
Let's do it. Right. Absolutely. Right. Later on in the week.
I might try to fly to Miami and do it there too. No, I'm joking.
Baby J, hang in there.
Did we just find out that Baby J doesn't follow you or me, Moose?
I
he
do.
Only follows Ernie?
I know. I follow you guys too. I got both of you on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Also, so I can send it to either one of you. Don't worry.
All right.
All right, Baby J, you're the best, brother. Thank you.
Have a good
man. Yes, that's it. How about I'm right calling you out on the carpet, Keith?
I mean, but I still just because a few Kendrick
pull
Perkins
it out of
said
thin
it.
Air, wants to be the guy like Kyrie did.
Haven't heard anything with Jaylen Brown. Everything I
I
did.
And you'll see results from April with Kendrick Perkins. I'm right.
That was I saw Kendrick Perkins say it. Yes, it definitely means that it's gospel. You're right.
What?
One person has said it.
He's close to the Celtics organization.
One person has said it. It's a good point. It's true. No, it's a fact. Jaylen Brown wants to be traded. Trade him now. Actually, you know what? They should trade him before this next series.
No, I'm not
saying that. Jaylen Brown should actually hold out. Say, I won't play unless you trade me.
You know, I'm right. Karl Anthony Towns hated playing for Tom. Why would the Wolves want to trade him? No, well, the Wolves would want to trade him if they want to move on, or he wants out. That's not true. By the way, I know that's not true.
Yeah.
Where did you see Dame wants to be traded?
I didn't. I said that I want to trade for Dame. Yeah, I didn't say that Dame wanted to be traded. I said I want to trade for Dame.
Yes.
Yeah. Keith Irizarry
Keith,
says,
did you pull that out of thin air?
No. Now, what I would pull out of thin air would be if I were to say, rumors are that Damian Lillard doesn't want to be in Portland anymore. Yeah. I've heard, people have told me that Damian Lillard. No, I didn't say any of that. I said if I were a Knicks fan, I would be asking my management to try to go get Damian Lillard. That's the guy who I would want.
By the way, congratulations on the Lakers making it to Western Conference.
That's my
Final.
team. That's my squad. That's why I'm wearing yellow today.
Now I hope Jokic just wipes the floor with LeBron and Anthony Davis.
How great would it be if the Lakers win in like 5 or 6?
Oh, it sucks.
They're in the championship.
That would be terrible.
I looked at the cash out numbers for me today.
Yeah.
I'm contemplating it because I'm not sure the Lakers are going to beat the Nuggets.
No, go all in.
You think just ride it out?
Yeah, ride it out. You said you didn't put a big amount of money on it.
You know, now I'm alive for Lakers Celtics too, though. I still got that ticket also. Don't forget.
There you go. Very nice.
50-1 odds, Lakers versus Celtics.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I think Denver's winning the series.
Probably. Can we agree that
Lakers have had an easy path?
Can we agree that everyone on this show is now a Lakers fan?
No, I am not a Lakers fan.
Everyone's a Lakers fan here. Let's go, guys. Let's all root for the Lakers. Let's go. It's LeBron's world. We're all living in it.
No, Kerr was interesting the other night talking about the fact that the team's not a championship team after they got eliminated. Well, they won the title last year. Basically the same characters, same group of guys. So last year they were a championship team, but this year they're not a championship team after they just got waxed. I mean, you could. I don't know. There was some photo someone sent me about Curry looking at Jordan Poole with just like an utter sense of disgust on his face. And like, it's just like the team can't stand Jordan Poole.
Yeah, the Knicks will probably get Jordan Poole.
It might be the end. I don't want Jordan Poole.
Exactly.
But DeAndre Ayton, you look at DeAndre Ayton got hurt for Phoenix. I'm thinking about Draymond Green. Obviously, it might be the end for him in Golden State or this Warriors run. It's been an unbelievable run for Golden State, but give the Lakers credit. They, and a team that started the year 2-10. And they are now 4 victories away from playing for the Larry O'Brien trophy. That's all they are. But they have to go through Denver. They have to go through Jokic. They have to go through Porter. Yep. They have to go through Jamal Murray. They have to go through Aaron Gordon. They have to go through, what is, I believe, just a better Denver team. Doesn't necessarily mean the Nuggets win it, but I do believe Denver's a better team.
Yeah, and I don't like that Better Boss just said he's going to root for LeBron over Denver.
Oh, you got that anchor on your shoulders now.
Yep, Nuggets win.
Deutsch is now on your shoulders.
Yep, Nuggets win. Nuggets in either.
I got to give Matt credit. He was all over Miami. He was right about that.
Nuggets in 4 or 5.
You should cash out.
I might. I'm thinking about it. Let me see what the number is.
Yaron Weitzman's going to join us. He's going to join us next. We got a lot to get into. We'll get into the Sportscasters Derby. We'll get a little bit later on in the program as well. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Monday right here on the Better Sports Network.
Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Better Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he not? I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah, okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete, 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover. And then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. 2003, Marshall Falk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
no way you know.
And Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14.
No way you know all this.
14, also a trick question. I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders. Unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
Oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my life.
Okay, keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16, hold on. 16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17, now this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. Yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had 2 people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Better Sports Network.
All right, let's welcome aboard right now. Yaron Weitzman joins us. Good morning, Yaron. How are you?
Good, guys. Can we heard, seen? Am I all good this time?
Yes, loud and
nice.
clear. Looking good,
Great.
looking sharp, brother.
Oh, thank
A lot to get into it with you. Overall, how have the playoffs been for you?
It's fun. I mean, as nobody wants to hear the sports writer complain about the grind of the playoffs, right? It's fun. It's just a lot, but it's fun. It's enjoyable.
1 to 10. Okay, I'm going to give you a scale here. You wrote an excellent book, right? It was all about the process, right? And we now it's where it is. The conversation this morning on various networks has been about if this is a hit or a miss, blah blah blah, with all the process. 1 or 10. 1 to 10 on your scale of how annoyed you are to have to even discuss the whole process.
I'm okay discussing the process. I mean, more than okay, right? Like, I'm honored that people want to hear what I have to say. I want to make a rule. I think if you're going to say the process didn't work, you are then required to name every Sixers general manager who's been in charge, every person who's been in charge of Sixers basketball operations for the past 10 years. Like, I'm okay if you're going to argue it didn't work, which, again, I don't really know what that means. I know it means didn't win a championship. To me, that's a bit of a simplistic way to look at it. But I also think you have to acknowledge that Sam Hinkie's been gone for 8 years, and those Colangelos and Brett Brown there for a little bit, and Elton Brand, and there's just been a lot of different decision makers who have come through since the quote-unquote process was even begun.
But here's the thing, like when you look at it, and it's one thing to tank for picks. You also have to make the right picks as well. Like, you know, they honestly made some terrible selections with some of those picks. What did they draft? I mean, they drafted, what was it, 3 consecutive centers or 3 centers in like 4 years? I mean, they went through it, and I understand they finally got it right with Joel Embiid, who's an unbelievable player. I get that. I understand it. But, you know, drafting Nerlens Noel and, you know, passing on guys, and they had the opportunity to draft Tatum. So they made some terrible selections when you look at the picks over the years when they were going through that entire process. They had an opportunity to draft basically an all-world team if they handled those picks correctly.
For sure. So there's a couple of things there. So I'll correct the Tatum. Again, this is, and I'm not at you. Tatum was Brian Colangelo, not Hinkie. So if we're talking about that, what I agree with you, the answer Sam Hinkie would always give when he talks about these kind of things, and what sort of his reasoning for tanking was that the draft is a crapshoot. It's really hard, so I want to get as many swings at the plate as I possibly can. And that argument I don't necessarily love, because to me that's a bit of a cop-out, because by saying that, and I agree with you, by saying that you're basically saying we are going to tank, we're going to get a lot of picks, but because I know that first-round picks and drafting and the draft in itself is really hard, I'm going to take it. It's going to play blackjack. I'm going to take as many shots as I can, and I'm going to take 3 or 4. And if I hit on 2, I will be okay. But I'm admitting beforehand that I'm not going to get them all right. And in a way, by doing that,
right, you're excusing it. Then what's the point of having scouts? Right. What's the point of going to watch basketball games?
I agree.
What's the point? I mean, like, if you're
undercutting the argument for sure.
Right.
For sure.
I mean, like, what? Then it's basically you can have any Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's like throwing darts up against the wall.
For sure. For sure. So the draft part, I agree with that, and I've had this argument with people from that time, right? So it's interesting. I think it's okay to miss a couple. So Hinkie basically had 3 first-round picks. It was Embiid, home run, can't argue. Nerlens Noel and Jaleel Okafor. So basically 1 for 3 is how you would look at it. The Noel draft was a little weird. That was the Anthony Bennett. I don't remember exactly, but that was Anthony Bennett.
It was a terrible
draft.
Yeah,
and Noel was mostly considered the top prospect when he was injured coming out. So that's a little
ACL
different.
at Kentucky.
Correct. So yeah, it's different. In terms of the process, it's what I always go to is championships are hard. If you're a Sixers fan, your team was irrelevant beforehand. I know they made the second round, but nobody cared. Like you're New York. Like nobody outside of Philadelphia was even talking about the Sixers or cared about the Sixers. They weren't leading first take or anything. Sixers fans barely cared. They haven't advanced further, but they've been relevant. They've been in, a quote unquote contender. Like they matter. And I do think if you're a fan, that's all you want from your team is to reach a point where you are so upset about a Game 7 loss because you think this team should have won a championship, right? Or could compete for a championship. And that's the metric I sort of use. And to me, by that metric, they've been successful.
How do you now view the Philadelphia 76ers?
This is a inflection point, fork in the road moment. Choose whatever cliche you want, right? I think they are. I'm not going to say in trouble if you have the MVP of the league and Daryl Morey, who he can. Some people maybe are not huge fans of him, but he's objectively good at his job, right? You have a guy like that running your basketball operations, and you have the MVP, and you have a young guy like Tyrese Maxey. You're in okay shape, but they're in a bit of trouble here. The Harden player option and him looking at Houston, that's obviously a real thing. There's a question of whether you're Philly, do you even want to bring him back? Or is that something you would want? The idea that Houston is lurking there, that might mean you have to pay more. They also have cap issues where it's not like if Harden just walks, they can just sign somebody else into that space. They don't have that ability in terms of their cap situation. They'd have to get rid of Tobias Harris's contract also, but to do that, you have to attach picks. They're low on picks. So they have some tough questions here facing them this offseason. It seems like a real fork in the road moment for sure.
What do you think Harden does?
So I get asked that a lot. I don't know, but the reason I'm not as a cop out, I don't think he knows, or even if he does know, what he says today, what he wakes up and tells a friend today, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Like these minds get changed all the time, especially all these stars, and especially a guy like him, right? He's shown that over the past few years where Houston and Brooklyn, Philly, and maybe going back to Houston and all this stuff. Like the Houston stuff's real. That stuff that's been out there for a while, and he has real ties there, and his family's there. It's not just that he likes partying there and likes running the Rockets organization. I'm sure that's more than a small part, but it's also his family ties there, and I believe his mom's there. And real,
but
genuine.
They stink.
They do stink for sure. Oh, I'm not going to argue
he's
that.
Never like his game is devolving as we speak. Like by the time they're good, and maybe they win the lottery tonight or whatever, like James Harden's no longer going to be in the league.
No, it's even funnier than that. It's like, so they did this. They lost Harden. Harden left, and they did the reset, and they're tanking. And it's almost like if you sign Harden and you brought in Ime Udoka, who I don't think Ime Udoka is taking a job where he thinks he's coaching a bunch of 22-year-olds. So it's almost like if they end up trading all the young guys, they're not even doing the thing. It seems like they might not even be doing the thing where you draft a bunch of young guys and you slowly do a dual timeline thing where you're gonna bring a veteran and make them grow together.
They've scrapped the tank now. Now all of a sudden,
right? It seems like honestly, I don't know. It wouldn't be surprising if they start trading these guys. Like it seems like they might even just completely abort the tank. It's a really weird. I don't know the last time we've seen that. Or again, we've seen dual timelines and this team's ready. Let's get some veterans. Let's make a jump. I don't know if we'll see we've seen teams I don't know. Well, they offered. Hey, let's say they sign Harden. They're gonna keep Jalen Green there. They're gonna try to flip him for I don't know who's a veteran player, whatever veteran player X, right? You know what I mean? Who's an all-star. So it's really interesting. So to answer your question, what I don't know, and there's in terms of why Houston would do it, that's an interesting question as well. That might be more of an ownership thing than a basketball operations thing. Where
gotcha.
But yeah, so in terms of what I think from Harden, I think he's impossible to read because I don't think, even if he does know, I don't think what he thinks this morning matters. Like it matters more in a few weeks or months, whatever that is.
What did you make of the comments from Joel Embiid? Moose and I thought they were taken a little out of context, and the fact that it's immediately right after a game, him talking about me and James can't do it on our own. It's a 5-on-5 game. What did you make of those comments, though?
I was in the press conference. I didn't even register to me in terms of that. Like I think they were completely out of context. And again, yeah, if you listen to the whole quote, he said, "I gotta be better. We gotta be better." I thought it was nothing. I get how they get pulled out. Dame Lillard tweeting that part probably it was a little interesting. I try not to be the do better aggregators guy because I get it. I've done that, all that stuff. But I thought those to me when I was there, like it didn't even. I like to think I have a pretty good radar for this stuff, and I am. And I'm not a Joel Embiid apologist. I've been critical of him in the past where I think he deserves criticism. That to me was not one. This to me is not one of those times.
Yaron, there's a lot to get into it. I want to ask you, Ishbia out in Phoenix, does he really believe that Monty Williams was the problem? I mean, and I get he's a new owner and it didn't warm up to him and all of these things, but Monty Williams, former coach of the year, helped bring the Phoenix Suns back. The Ishbia is the one that pulled the Durant deal and gave up all the assets to bring KD in for Brooklyn. They became very top heavy. Paul then all the time gets hurt in the postseason. Like Monty Williams getting fired, like Ishbia, and he's the one that made the decision, and then had the general manager doesn't even call a meeting, has the GM call Monty Williams to tell him that he's being fired. What are you doing here if you're Matt Ishbia running the field? I get he's a billionaire. He could do whatever the hell he wants to do. But, I mean, could you come across a little bit classier or, handle your business a little bit better than that?
I agree. He's definitely he's coming in hot, right? He's definitely coming in hot. I guess, listen. So I'll give him, I guess if a head coach, if you have a team lose an elimination game at home in back-to-back years by 30 or whatever it is, you can make the argument that needs to be done. But other than that, I completely agree with you. And the fact that Isaiah Thomas is sort of lurking around and anyone and he was sitting next to him at the game, and that's been something that he's managed to be as close to Isaiah Thomas. What that means in terms of is Isaiah Thomas whispering basketball advice into his ear? I don't know. If you're listening to Isaiah Thomas in anything,
I'll tell you this, as a Knicks fan, he whispered in Dolan's ears, shut the ears. It doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Isaiah's not this great basketball savant. It's not going to end up working.
By the way, Isaiah, this might be a better angle. If Isaiah's got into Ishbia's inner circle there too, he have to start offering the consulting classes for how to kind of sidle your way up into an owner and just for no reason. It's actually impressive. It's a pretty good skill if you can pull this off. I'm with you. Ishbia, this has not been it's been a pretty, I'll say, cliche-like start to the new owner who comes in and thinks he's going to run everything and knows everything and is kind of going to make a bunch of mistakes. Yeah, for sure.
What names are you hearing for Phoenix and for Milwaukee?
I mean, I haven't
Is
heard
it all
anything.
just retreads basically right now?
Yeah. Again, I haven't made. Those aren't situations I'm personally plugged into, so it's going to be the same as fourth hand stuff. But I assume you're going to see probably Bud and Monty Williams and Nick Nurse just sort of do merry-go-round musical chairs type thing around here.
All right, let's talk about some of the conference finals of the two matchups here, Yaron. Want to get your kind of thought on them. Boston and Miami. We've seen, obviously, decided coaching advantage to Spoelstra, talent advantage when you look at Boston. We've seen it before, obviously. Butler's amazing. We know that. We know that Tatum is an all-NBA player, and Brown and the two running mates, Batman and Robin, up there for the Boston Celtics. And this year, the expectations were for the Celtics to make that next step forward. Number one is, how do you see if Miami should pull off another stunner and beat Boston this series? How do you think that looks? And do you think we're going to look back on the greatest test the Celtics faced was that Game 6 in Philadelphia? Do you think they get tested in this series against Miami?
Okay, so the second question first, I think that is what we're going to see, right? Not that Miami can't win a few games or make it hard, but Game 6, I was in the building there. It just felt like it was the Sixers fans were cheering. It was about 4 minutes left, and I think it was the clear path foul for Maxey. It felt like that was it for Boston, right? It really felt like that was it, and you're going to have all these Tatum questions, and Jaylen Brown has the Supermax option, and what about Joe Mazzulla? And just, again, we're using the same phrase I used before with Philly, just this fork in the road inflection point. It felt like that was that for Boston, and they overcame that, and I just don't think Miami has the depth or overall talent to push them that way to the brink like that. Doesn't mean they can't get a couple games. We've seen Jimmy Butler do it. We've seen Jimmy Butler do it against this specific team last year and almost beat them in 7 games. This team, I don't think this Miami team, I don't think is quite as good, though Lowry's been playing great. I know Tyler Hero's out, which that takes away a shot maker for them, but it also allows them to kind of go a little more defense first guys on the floor. If you're asking the Miami's path, it's Jimmy being what he was in the first round against Milwaukee, which we'll see what the ankle looks like, because that, the Knicks flopping or flailing a little bit, I think covered up the fact that Jimmy did not look great after returning from the ankle injury. Like, he was not the same guy he was against the Bucks. Maybe he was pacing himself because he knew he can get away with it, but he was not sort of that all-world player. So it'd be Jimmy returning to that, and it'd be the Heat hitting a bunch of threes, which is something they didn't do in the regular season. They've been doing in the playoffs. That would be sort of the recipe there.
Imagine you were betting on things and you held a ticket on the LA Lakers to win the West. Just imagine that was something that you had. Tell that person why the LA Lakers can beat the Nuggets.
I mean, the Lakers, I don't even know anymore how to process this Lakers season. It's just the strangest thing. And I mean, I guess they're legitimately a good team. That's obviously not even a hot take anymore, right? Post deadline, post deals. They're that. I don't have an answer for that. I guess just as a fan, I'm just completely, I'm really excited to watch Anthony Davis against Jokic. I think that's going to be really fun both ways, to see if Jokic can kind of keep up what he's been doing against Anthony Davis, who is a all-world defender, and also to see, like, okay, Anthony Davis, like, how good are you? Like, are you somebody who you can slow down Jokic, who's on an all-time heater right now? I don't know, like, the numbers are, I don't have them in front of me. They're insane. What he did against the Suns, it's one of the most insane. It's like the player you create in like a video game and you go rack up points. He's been doing that. So I'm excited to see that. That's all I'm excited for. But in terms of who could win, I have no idea to predict these things anymore. I think I've been wrong every round of the playoffs so far. So
good, why do you think? Then pick the Nuggets so that you're wrong. Go ahead. Pick the
Nuggets. You're wrong. Why do you think Jokic gets some of the shade that he gets for a guy that's a 2-time MVP of the league? And I know Perkins, went to a level that we don't need to go to during the regular season with his comments on ESPN, and then ESPN had to issue a statement apologizing for it and everything and the like. But why do you think I understand he's got a dad bod and doesn't look like he's cut from and he looks like a guy that, is gone 5 rounds with Mike Tyson, right? Because, he's got, a broken nose. He's got, you get it. But why do you think we don't talk of Jokic? He's left off the ballot by Mark Jackson in the MVP vote. It's like,
that was a mistake.
No, I understand, but it's like, how do you have the vote then? Like, you don't sit down. But why do you don't think we talk about Jokic on that kind of a level?
It's a good question, because I would agree with you. Like, the things you're mentioning, the dad bod, these are things we often and usually find endearing in guys. Like, it's kind of more fun. I think part of it is probably the simple reason that most people haven't watched him play a lot. They're in Denver. They're not on national TV. Even, by the way, in Denver, they have one of these weird screwed up TV situations where, like, I forget what it is, but local fans can't watch the games because rich people are fighting with other rich people or something like that, right? So it's one of those situations. I think that's it, because if you watch him, not only is he good, he's enthralling. Like, he's the most fun player to watch in the league. The things he does on a court are ridiculous. The passing, and everybody who likes basketball, like, everybody loves watching a great passer. That's Magic Johnson, all these guys. Like, that's his oldest time, watching guys throw ridiculous passes that you didn't think possible. So I think it's probably not just that. I think that plays a big part of it, that a lot of people have not watched him play. And then I do think the MVP conversation became toxic, and for whatever reasons just went to a whole new level there. And it's been like that for the past two regular seasons, right, with Embiid and Jokic. So I think that played a role where it almost became not about Jokic, but just about this greater sociological thing. That could be race, that could be how you analytics versus box score. Like, Jokic gets painted as the analytics guy, which, his analytic numbers and the advanced numbers are all great. But also, like, he averages 26 points, leads the league in rebounds, and shoots 56%. Like, these aren't advanced numbers. Those are basic box score numbers that have been we've been using.
But you're wrong. The hell with the analytics. Just watch the man play.
Right, yeah. I'm agreeing with you.
Like he's unbelievable. Like
he's
the
a
vision
center,
he has
almost
for a
averaging
guy
a
his
triple-double.
size is crazy.
I'm agreeing with you. That's what I'm saying. He became to represent. Like I think people haven't watched him play, and then again they like Jokic represents something to them that I guess he is kind of those things, but he's also lots of other things, and that it's just I agree with you. I think it's more just a ignorance and just not that's where I would go with.
Do you have an MVP vote?
I do not. No.
If you had a ballot, what would your order have been?
This year, I would have left Jokic off as well. No, this year it would have been
Can you imagine you were like, yeah, I agree with Mark Jackson. He nailed it.
Yeah, right.
This year.
Right.
By the way, can we Mark Jackson interviewing for the Bucks job, and maybe this is unfairly mean. Like going from Bud to Mark Jackson would be, in terms of like drop off. I don't know. I think it's probably a baseball comp that's probably better than NBA comps to go with, or I don't know. Phil Jackson to who was after Phil Jackson? I don't even remember who took over. Floyd. Tim Floyd. Like it's.
Oh yes, in Chicago.
Yeah, it's not quite that, but we're getting there. Anyway, so my MVP vote. Jokic had a poor. I thought he took a step off the gas for the last month and a half, so I would have gone with Embiid 1 and Jokic 2. But maybe there's a lesson there also that this was the year Embiid pushed a little extra and he fell off in the playoffs. And Jokic did not. He took his foot off the gas in the last month of the season, and he to say he is thriving in these playoffs would be an understatement.
Let me follow up because you said Mark Jackson. The story of Mark Jackson I find fascinating because he was there in Golden State before Steve Kerr, kind of set the pathway a little bit for Kerr. A lot of people think, and then there's other people that say that he was the reason they didn't take the step forward, and it was Kerr that took them. Like, how do you view Mark Jackson?
The answer, as in many things, I think is both, right? Like, okay. I don't think you can. And the players, I'm not around Golden State, right? I'm not around that team, but talking to people and reading things, like they've all given him credit for laying the foundation. But I also think it's never a great sign. This was like with Jason Kidd in Milwaukee when Bud came in, right? It's never a great sign when you get when one coach is removed, another coach comes in. That's really the only big change that is made, and the team, wins 25 more games and becomes a championship level team. The other thing with Mark Jackson, there's lots of other uglier stuff in terms of comments about gay people and his homophobic comments and all these sorts of issues that are in the past. And frankly, and Ethan Strauss, who used to cover the Warriors and writes a Substack, has written about some of these things more in depth. But I think if Mark Jackson were to become a more legitimate candidate or become a finalist in one of these markets, sort of how we saw with Chauncey Billups a few years ago in Portland, where we then started looking into his past, I think this would be an issue for Mark Jackson as well.
Your own Ja Morant Memphis, with the the video that came out, then he was came out on Saturday. One of his buddies going Insta Live, and then on Sunday the Memphis Grizzlies not immediately, but on Sunday morning suspending him from all team activities for the foreseeable future. We saw what he went through when he went to counseling, the interview that he did on ESPN and apologizing, basically I've seen the light and all these things. And now you get him, going and with a gun again. What happens here with Ja Morant and the NBA?
So it's a great question. I'm actually going to, because I thought a friend of mine, Michael Pina at The Ringer, I was talking to him about it, and he had a line which I'm going to steal because I thought it was great. He said, Ja is making a lot of people look stupid, and people don't like being made to look stupid, and that's going to be a problem. Like, so if you're Adam Silver, you're being made to look kind of like a fool here, right? And I think that could be a problem. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I can't predict games because that becomes collective bargaining, and the union has to fight for it, even if they might not agree, and it becomes a whole separate issue. But I do expect there to be significant punishment levied here.
Well, let me for sure. But let me ask you this, Yaron. I maybe you don't know the answer or what. They made it perfectly clear that Dylan Brooks was a problem by their statement, in essence, getting it out there that on no uncertain terms is Dylan Brooks coming back to Memphis. Is Ja a massive problem despite his talent? Is his attitude or personality or lack of leadership, is that a massive problem for the Memphis Grizzlies?
It's a problem in that it's a different kind of problem, right? It's a problem in that, and this is how professional sports work, and we can argue, we can complain about it or not. It's a problem that it could him being suspended or keep having things like this pop up and just all this other nonsense, for lack of a better word, like that could prevent them from reaching their ceiling as of a championship team. I think that would be more the problem of how they look at it, right? And that maybe sound a little cold. And I'm sure they want to help Ja, but they want to win as well, right? And this is how professional sports always work. And we can argue whether that's fair or not, or whether that's right. That's a whole separate conversation. So that would be the problem. People like Ja. I think his maturity would be the issue there, and in terms of what that means. I also, so those would be the problems. I don't expect Memphis to cut bait and say, we're trading you because this is.
No, I don't know that. I don't know that, but like, when's he gonna see like the error of his ways? Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just like, you guys are all wrong. You're making this out to be bigger than it is. I tried to play your game. I'm gonna do it with the way that I want to. I have no idea. I mean, people. I look at it as a guy that I never had the athletic ability, nor am I 6'3", right? So the point being is, like, you look at guys where you just want to be like, you're wasting it. Like, you've worked and you've earned it. You're there. You did all the work, teenage years and all that, and now you're wasting it all away. Like, you're flushing it down the toilet.
To be honest, I thought we would have been there already because he got hit in the wallet, right? And so he lost out on the suspension, and the bad PR cost him an All-NBA vote. And because of that, he didn't get the Supermax extension. Basically, he signed to, for people who don't know, he signed to an extension. After you're signed to the extension, if you hit certain win MVP or make All-NBA teams or whatever, that extension number becomes greater. It becomes more lucrative. So by Ja not making an All-NBA team this year, he cost himself $40 million on his extension. So you would think that would be a lesson. There's some of the Nike and Powerade and all that stuff. I assume that stuff will be coming next as he becomes less and less marketable. Usually when the money speaks, that's often when the money comes or people come take away your money, that's usually often where the change happens. If he's going to be, I don't know, stubborn about it, for lack of a better word. It's a great question. I don't have an answer, right? Because you would think we'd got there ready. The PR wasn't there. But I also thought the fact that he tweeted out after not making the All-NBA team, I forget it was something, but basically like, haters gonna hate. It was more creative than that because that's 20 years ago. But something, whatever the kids say these days. But it was something along those lines. And I thought after that was before this video came out on Sunday. I remember seeing that and being like, oh, like we're not. There's just no accountability, no understanding of there was an actual issue here, and that to me was always the fear because when he originally put out the statement of hinting toward it being a mental health issue, and then going to Florida for like 3 days and coming back, and just the whole thing seemed fake to me, and it really did in terms of how he played it, and I guess we're seeing that was actually the case.
You'd want to use the phrase like no cap, like that means like
oh my bad, yeah. I got that.
Yeah, something like that would be the young kids. I got 2 young boys. I throw those in there. All right, so I want to go back to something you said at the beginning of this Ja Morant thing that I thought was really well stated. People don't like to be made fools of or to be made look dumb, right? So if Adam Silver and the rest of the NBA guard kind of almost vouched for Ja, like, all right, we trust you, we do this. There's also the statement, we can go all the way back to Charles Barkley, like, I'm not a role model or whatever. How much is this, though, from an NBA standpoint, where like they look at this guy and before this stuff, you could make an argument he was maybe one of the 5 most marketable players in the NBA. Like he would have been towards the top. Everyone fell in love with Ja over the last year and a half. How much does that, you think, potentially weigh into whatever decision happens with his suspension? Because there's going to be some sort of suspension.
Yeah, I think that part's probably done. He was for sure that guy. I mean, he had a Nike shoe. Like I think that's a smaller group than people realize in terms of the guys who have their own signature shoe. It's a smaller number of players, smaller circle. So that, and he was playing in Memphis and this upstart team. And talking about Jokic, like Ja is an absolute joy to watch. He's a delight to watch. He's exciting, electric. He's a great teammate on the court. He plays the right way. He passes the ball. He sets up teammates, all this kind of stuff. So you put all that together, he was going to be one of these anointed ones. So losing that, that hurts. How is that going to factor in? I think that part, like, I don't think the NBA thinks they can bring. Again, I don't know. I would guess that the NBA doesn't think that they can get that back at this point. It's more just how do we? What are our league standards? Why do we have those standards in place? Like, what matters to us? So they're going to say, and again, maybe they care about his well-being, but they also care. It's a business, and they care more about the marketability and what these things say about the league and how it affects the bottom line, and factor all this in and make their decision.
Yaron, you're great. We appreciate it. Book was awesome a number of years ago. Fox Sports, you do a great job covering the association. I'll close it out here because you're close down in Philadelphia. Doc back next year as head coach?
I'm gonna bet I have no inside info on this one. I'll give you a longer answer. Like, people 3 levels removed, 4 levels removed, all year have been saying, "Oh, it's probably he's out, he's in trouble." Anytime I've spoken to somebody closer to the situation, I've got to know not true. Everyone's probably lying at all these points. It also seems like NBA coaches just get fired now. Like, this is gonna be one of these things, and I would say the existence of some quality candidates on the market probably does not help his chances of remaining in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and Mark Jackson's out there. You're right.
Yeah. And how limited do you think Embiid was?
How limited Embiid? He was certainly limited injury wise.
Do you want to say, was it 70%, 65, 80%?
72.39. No, he was limited, but like not enough. He was playing not enough where he should have performed the way he did. Like, not enough where, and I think he would probably say the same thing, where he would say not enough where he would say, yeah, that's the reason why I couldn't take a jump shot over Al Horford yesterday, right?
Yeah, we appreciate you giving 89.2% effort today in this interview. Great job by you.
That's what I always go for.
Thanks a lot, Yaron. You're awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Later,
I know the NBA playoffs are an absolute grind. We'll get into the Jaw stuff. We'll do that next. But
79.32%. That was clever. Very
good
clever.
answer. Fantasy football best ball
giggle.
season is here, and you can join a live draft and try to beat your fantasy alarm analyst while talking about your picks and strategy live on Better Sports Network. Sign up for a live draft on the Fantasy Alarm Discord today. Remember, you must have a Fantasy Alarm subscription to join. So visit fantasyalarm.com for subscription options to jumpstart your dominance over the competition. We'll get into talk a little bit about the Sportscasters Derby as well. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Monday right here on the Better Sports Network.
Moose and Keith, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.
The word genius is there. Bob Glover, it describes him. Bob, so when's the last time that Twitter defeated you? Because I've been defeated by Twitter today.
I'll tell you how Twitter defeated me one time. I had the mistaken impression that the year that Troy Polamalu won the Defensive Player of the Year, it looked like it was going to go to Clay Matthews Jr. And I tweeted it. And there was a guy on the media bus. He was like, oh, yeah, he's got it, a guy I trust. I won't tell you who it was, but his initials are Mike Garafalo. So I went with it. Got a DM from Rich Eisen, NFL Network. He goes, you sure about that? I go, oh, man. Oh, I just got this wave because like accuracy to me is really important.
Yeah.
So I'm literally on the media bus. We're just getting back from media day. We are slipping and sliding in Dallas. It's snowing. I get off the bus. I open my laptop. I'm hunched over, and I just like literally people are passing me. Bob, what's wrong? And it was Polamalu, and Adam Schefter had retweeted me. Trey Wingo had retweeted me. I'm like, oh, I'm dead.
So when it's Polamalu, then how do you handle that? Like, what was the subsequent tweet
I think
afterwards?
I said, got some bad Twitter info. I didn't put Garafalo's name on there. I had to
10 years later, you can out him. I like that. Yeah.
You know, he wouldn't mind that. He knows the stories. So.
Yeah.
He actually said to me, hey, Bob, I think you might have jumped the gun on that. I was like, oh, crap. There we go.
Campus to Canton on the Better Sports Network.
Would Dion bench Shedeur?
I don't think he would.
Like, how bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 5 years? JT Shroud, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. Like, they were 131st, which is dead last in pass EPA per play. Obviously, it will be better, but how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? Like, I'm not sure he will ever either, like, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
If they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him, so I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player. So he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft. So he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. And let's remember this. He hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle. So maybe he could get one of these class of 2024 quarterbacks there to come to Colorado.
However you're invested in sports, from betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more, join our community on Better Sports Network.
One in each borough. I'm in the pocket like Burrow. When I'm back home, no, they treat me like Robert De Niro. Took it to talk about butter and churro. Took it home.
Moose and Keith with you. Remind everybody, Better fans, you can have the Better Sports Network newsletter emailed to you every single day. The only place to get our daily Better Bet, plus exclusive offers, program alerts, special events, and our top moments. Register for free right now at bettersports.com. They fire out a pick every single day. Got to love the newsletter.
I like it.
Yeah, no question about it. About Ja, yeah, listen, we closed out the conversation with Yaron, talking a little bit about Ja Morant, and the Insta Live video went out, and one of his buddies knocked down the camera, but it was too late because
Devontae Pack is that guy's name.
Oh, okay.
We should talk about him a little bit, but okay.
Morant is I don't have a gun in my house. I don't, I have never been to a shooting range. I understand it's a right in our country. That's all well and good. I think you got to be responsible with it. But here's the deal is that there comes along with responsibility when you have a Nike shoe deal, when you're going to be representing an organization, not only representing yourself, when you went through everything that you went through this past year during the regular season. And then as your offseason is beginning, because you got eliminated in the first round of the NBA playoffs, by the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm sorry, you just can't. I mean, you just can't be doing that. I mean, I think Ja's going to get a heavy hand here by the NBA and by Adam Silver. I mean, I just do.
Moose, here is the soapbox I'm going to get on, and I'm not against guns. I'm not for guns. I'm not taking any hard stance there whatsoever. That's not the point of this. There are a lot of people out there that are talking about, well, you've got these politicians' families that are posting pictures and they're holding rifles. And what's the difference between Ja Morant brandishing a pistol in an Instagram video as opposed to some guy or gal, having a AR-15 or whatever? The difference is this. If you have bosses that tell you cannot do something and they are paying you money to be doing your career, like your job, then don't do those things you're not allowed to do. I understand the right to bear arms. I understand the right to get your license to be able to have said weapon. All of those things are fine. And if Ja Morant or any human being feels like, they need to get a license to have a gun with them, and they live in an area where it is okay and they have the proper licensing, do what you need to do for yourself. I get it. But the silliness of doing this in an Instagram live video, by the way, so there's no way you can lie and say, oh, this was 3 months ago. No, it was live, is pretty just moronic. It's a knucklehead type of thing. I use that word all the time about like making silly mistakes. And it's a silly mistake. But Ja Morant's supposed to be a professional athlete. Ja Morant is also supposed to be, or at least portrays himself that he wants to be, someone the kids can look up to. You can't do this, man. You just cannot do this. And the other part of this is the name Devontae Pack, because I think it is worth, Moose, looking into the friends that you are hanging out with. And we all know the stories about Allen Iverson. And Allen Iverson had his buddies from school that apparently were leading him in the wrong directions, and he got himself in trouble. And I guess he either, removed himself from that group, or at least shortened or smallened is not even a word. Basically tightened up that group. Devontae Pack is someone that has been hanging around Ja Morant for a while. He's already been banned from, I think it's the Indiana Forum. Like, he's not allowed to be at Pacers games anymore. He's not allowed to be, there's some mall that he went to that he's no longer allowed at. And I don't know if Devontae Pack is a bad person, but what I can tell you is Devontae Pack is not putting Ja Morant in the right positions. So whether it's Pack is making the mistakes and Morant is following, or Morant is making the mistakes and Pack is a part of it, this duo does not seem to be working. Someone needs to step in and talk to Ja Morant. And sometimes the only way to make someone realize the error of their ways is to take something away that they love. And that's why if I'm the NBA, I'm going really harsh with this penalty here. This suspension is going to be harsh. Whether it's half a season, whether it's more, whatever it may be, hit Ja Morant where he finds out, I cannot do these silly things anymore. I need to grow and be more mature.
Yeah, well said. I mean, well said. Totally agree. We'll see exactly. We saw the reaction from Memphis yesterday. We'll see what I haven't seen is Nike reacted. I have not seen if they did.
They've stayed pretty quiet.
They have not reacted as of yet. We'll see what the reaction is and the investigation by the NBA and see exactly what comes down with Ja Morant. But that's going to be a scenario that's going to be following with a young superstar. It is, no question about it. It's an absolute shame. No NBA tonight. The series don't get going until tomorrow night. Nuggets, Lakers, game 1. And then we've got game 1 of Celtics and Heat on Wednesday night. And Keith and I will have you covered pillar to post when those two series get going. So we talked.
I got prices on those series too.
Okay, fire away.
Just really fast because I know we're going to really break down the games tomorrow and the next day. So for the Western Conference Finals, the Lakers are plus 130 to win. Nuggets are minus 155. Obviously, you can check different books. And I believe this was FanDuel that I looked at last night. And for the Celtics, did you look at the price for them to win that series? Did you look yet?
I have not, no.
What do you think their price is?
Minus 185.
Minus 550.
Yeah.
Vegas does not believe the Heat have any chance. They're 4-1 odds. So if you believe Miami can pull this off, do it now. Plus 400 for Miami to win that. And then your championship odds, the Celtics have the shortest odds at even money. Nuggets at plus 230, Lakers at plus 330, and the Heat are at plus 1,400. So 14 to 1.
Yeah, I think that's about right. That's the way probably I'd probably lay the
plus 550 and minus 550 seems crazy though. No, I mean, you.
Oh no, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about on the futures odds to win the NBA title, right? I mean,
okay. That would sound right.
I think they're probably dead on when you look at that. I think Boston's obviously the favorite now, and let's see if they can finish off the deal. Came close to winning an NBA championship last year, obviously falling short to the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. Yeah, I think the Heat are going to have to continue to prove people. I think you're going to look at it. It's hard to bet Miami now. If you weren't there for Milwaukee, if you weren't there for the Knicks, it's hard now to jump on that train now because Boston, like I mentioned earlier in the show, perception is a reality. I mean, Boston's got the most talented team. I asked Yaron the question, are we going to look back at Game 6? And I really firmly believe it. Like, I think Game 6 is going to be the stiffest test that this Celtics team faces in the East. Game 6 on the road in Philadelphia, and they won that game. I don't think Miami – I think you're going to start to see now the limitations of Miami. I think the knee injury Budenholzer was going through, he lost his brother right around Game 4 of that series. Milwaukee just didn't seem right that entire series, even losing Tyler Hero. Matchup-wise, that was, to me, was unexplainable. I was not – all that surprised that Miami beat the Knicks. I'd be stunned if Miami beat Boston. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I actually think this could be a 5-game series.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. You're right. Unless Butler plays the way he did against Milwaukee. They need that version of Jimmy Butler. They can't have the version that played against the Knicks.
How many days off will Butler have? So they played Friday.
So they'll have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 whole days off.
And it starts Wednesday night.
So
really 4.5 days. I mean, that's nice.
Yes,
you would hope that whatever treatment would say that again.
Spolstra calls them spa days when they go in for treatment. Spa days.
I want a spa day.
Yes, when they work out.
Are you a spa guy?
No, not to that extent. No.
No, me neither.
No.
You a manicure, pedicure
on
guy?
occasion? Yeah.
You know, I've never had a pedicure before.
Yeah, you had mentioned that before. Yes.
Yeah, and and I'm not against it. I just never have.
Very relaxing.
Never have. Yeah, that's what everyone says. I like a good massage. Haven't had one in. I mean, it's been since before the pandemic.
I haven't had one in a while, but they're nice. You feel good. You got to take care of your feet. Feet take you where you need to go.
What about the cold bath? Have you seen all
I've
these
not
people
done the
doing
cold bath. No.
All right. I've done cryotherapy. Cryotherapy is where they blow all the cold air on you, like they freeze you basically.
Oh, I've done that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know what it does actually.
I mean, it loosens your muscles up. Like for me, so when I was doing like the CrossFit training, like nuts, right? Like trying to like be in competitions and stuff like that. Your body's just always hurting. So someone had mentioned the cryotherapy, and there was a place not that far from the gym that my sister and I were going to. So we ended up going, and I'll tell you, so I did it on purpose. I did a crazy heavy leg day on purpose. And then usually the next day you feel terrible. Like it's hard to walk and you loosen up as the day goes on, but it's a lot of like sore, right? I went for the whatever it was, like, I think you do 20 minutes, 8 minutes. I don't remember what the number was. You have to put the little booties on and you cover your private areas. And you go in this cryotherapy thing and you're in it and it freezes you and it's awesome. The next day I had zero soreness at all. I felt amazing. If I were a professional athlete, if I were training the way these professional athletes train, I think cryotherapy would be my jam.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. The other thing I swear by is, oh my God, the needles, acupuncture.
Okay.
Acupuncture is amazing.
Acupuncture I've done before. Yes.
Yeah.
Could be
acupuncture. I had a disc issue.
Yeah.
2016.
Okay.
2016. And I had a competition coming up in 2 months. I tried everything. I did like the homeopathic cortisone shot. I did a cortisone shot. Nothing would work. I went for 5 sessions of acupuncture, felt perfectly fine, entered the competition, and I was good to go.
Beautiful. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, the Edmonton Oilers are going to have a little acupuncture now because they're have some time.
Yeah. That and golfing.
They got eliminated by the Vegas Golden Knights last night. And Vegas marches on to the Western Conference Finals where they'll meet. We'll find out tonight because we've got a Game 7 down in Dallas, and that's the big game that's on the slate. No NBA playoffs. Only Stanley Cup game is the Stars and Kraken down in Dallas. As in Game 6 in Seattle, the Kraken chased Jake Ottinger. Ottinger's not played well in net this series. Seattle is real. They've been fantastic throughout the course of these playoffs, eliminating the Colorado Avalanche, and now they go on the road in Dallas. The Stars are a minus 210 favorite. The total in the game is sitting right now as 6. I don't know. I mean, there's no reason to believe Seattle can't go on the road tonight in Dallas and win this game.
Yeah. Conventional wisdom is Dallas wins at home, game number 7. I've been in that arena. It's rocking. I think I'd take Dallas here, but, minus 210 or whatever you said isn't worth it for me. Sharapan told us go over in this game.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'll trust Sharapan, who's on his drive back from Arizona to Vegas right now, wasn't able to be on the show. So I'll take the over.
Seattle right now is plus 172. The total right now is 5.5. So you can even get it
give me
to
the
6.
over.
Yeah. So and they're minus 128 over 5.5. I could see that. I don't know. I kind of, strangely enough, I kind of think
you're gonna pick.
Yeah, I kind of like Seattle tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just.
You like coffee and grunge music, yeah.
Well, they've got a veteran-laden team. Got a lot of guys that have Stanley Cup playoff experience, and Ottinger's not been great in this series. He really hasn't been. And he was really, I thought, was going to be the turning point or really the decider of why I like Dallas in the series. I was wrong about, I didn't know if in Seattle I gave him credit for knocking off Colorado. I would take the Kraken tonight plus the 172 to win on the road in Dallas.
Yeah.
Fair
enough. I think I would see Stars win and the over. I'd put it together and see what I can get my number at.
And then on Friday night, we talked about it on Friday. We had the Sportscasters Derby down in the Meadowlands, raised a lot of good money. It was a charity. We had myself, Keith, Maria Marino, Willie Colon, Don LaGreca was part of it, Mark Cannizzaro, Quincy Enunwa, and
Rebecca
Harlow. Correct. All part of it on Friday night at the Meadowlands. And Keith Arizari was victorious in our heat. And there you have it, the $5,000 check that he raised money for Memorial Sloan Kettering. And so fantastic event. But the guys, Nick Durst, Joe Calabrese. They did a video. They were out there. We saw Matt Deutsch for the first time in a long time as well, interviewing all the participants, and they put together a package. So roll it, Ernie. Here we go. Friday night, the experience at the Meadowlands, a little Sportscasters Derby.
We expect from you out there on the track tonight?
Listen, I have a wife, 2 kids. I have, full-time jobs. I'm never nervous. I don't even know what that word means. Can you explain what nervous means? No. I'm ready to have fun. I've never done anything like this before. I got asked to be a part of this. This is fascinating. Like, it's so cool to just look around and see what goes on here. So I'm just excited to get out on the horse. And you want trash talk? Is that what you're asking me for? No trash talk. I hope everyone does well.
All right. Everyone's going to do well, but it has to be a winner. So give me your trifecta. Who's going to come first, second, and third? Heat.
I will go Maria 1, me 2, Willie 3, Moose goes 4th.
Well, it's very simple. I won this event last year. I won my heat, and so the defending champ has to be the favorite. Now, that makes me a little nervous just because I feel like it's hard to repeat. There's a little pressure when you're the favorite, but that being said, I'm still optimistic.
So your heat, it's you, Moose and Keith from Better Sports Network, and Willie Colon.
I think Keith might be my stiffest competition, and I asked for this because I actually recruited Keith, if you didn't know. So Keith, if you win, you're welcome, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, tonight, Malusis is very good. He knows what he's doing. But I'm going to go with Maria because I think size matters.
It's huge.
Yeah, and I give Willie Colon no shot.
Steve, your wife competing tonight. She's the heavy favorite. She's off to the side, laughing hysterically right now. Tell the competition why they have no shot.
They have no shot because I know how much she weighs, and it's significantly less than the other competitors. So I think there's just a statistical probability that she's going to win. But she also brings good vibes, and I heard her horse's name is Super Cute. So I think she's super cute as well. So I think it's all good vibes and good energy, and I think she's going to win.
Keith is waving to the crowd. He must pay attention because they're off. It's Mark Malusis going for the lead. Maria Marino on the outside, and now Keith Irizarry on the outside with speed. They're 3 wide into the first turn. Willie Colon will bide his time in 4th position.
Let me show you our fans a little bit too.
Maria Marino is coming on to challenge and apply some pressure on Keith Irizarry.
Don't let Maria catch us! Woo!
Mark Malusis is locked in for his life. 138-2. They're into the stretch. Sportscasters Derby 2. And still in front, Keith Irizarry. And now Mark Malusis is trying to squeeze on through.
Come on! Back! Come on! Let's go! Come on, dig it! Dig it!
Keith Irizarry. Keith, you did it all the way, wire to wire, over Mark Malusis. And then it was Maria Marino and Willie Colon, 2:07.
We won? Awesome! That was so cool. It was all for good causes. Everyone had their own charities. Mine was Memorial Sloan Kettering. They were fantastic with my mother-in-law. Unfortunately, she passed away about 1.5 years ago. But they were the best doctors, and I'm just happy to be able to be here for that.
Well, Keith is going to have this. He's going to have this. Now he's going to have this race immortalized in basically racing history.
The champ is here. Keith, what was it like being out there? Adrenaline rush. You were doing the Instagram live, so there was no panic. You looked cool, calm, collected the whole time, and you won it.
I felt really comfortable. I did. Like, I know you were joking with me before. Are you nervous? Are you whatever? What are you? David, the driver, was awesome. He's like, we're gonna win this. I said, all right, let's win this. And he said, let's go. Yeah, I just felt really comfortable. It did. It was fun. We're in the lead. I got Maria Marino on the right side of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna beat us, right? And then out of nowhere, you see Moose coming up this way, and we feel him breathing down our neck. And I'm like,
Moose on the loose. Watch out.
Moose was definitely on the loose. And we just got Moose by a neck, a nose, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but again, all of this for a great cause, and it was absolutely awesome to do this. It was cool.
Keith, congratulations, and no matter what, you could always hold this over Moose's head.
There you go.
Oh my goodness, how good was that?
It was great. The most awkward thing was when Nick was talking to Maria's wife, talking about how cute she is.
Maria's husband,
right? About
yeah.
cute, and then
Steve, good dude.
And then the reaction of Nick's face as he was saying it was great. If
Yeah,
you go back
yeah.
and look at this.
Yeah, Steve just like, yeah, and I think she's super cute too.
Just tremendous.
Had his arms crossed. Yeah. It was great.
It was just.
Oh man, so much fun. Moose, you had told me prior to this when Maria had asked me if I could do it. I was like, hey, Moose, what do you think? He's like, oh, Moose was like, you got to do this. You have to do it. You're gonna love it. It was so well run, and the fact that like every charity gets some sort of money for them. It was, well, I mean, I guess I win, which means they'll invite me back. But I'm hopeful that they will invite me back because I will be down to come again.
Yeah, it's a great event. Rachel Ryan, everyone over at the Meadowlands, Jeff Corral. I saw Jason Settlemore out there as well. I've known those guys for years. And so it's a really good event. They've done a really good job with it. It's like the 5th or 6th time that I've done it. It's never fails to feel the power. They actually went faster than they were supposed to. I was talking to Tom McCarthy, my driver, and they're supposed to go about 2:35 because those are real, obviously standard breds. When you look at it, they're in training. They're supposed to race, I believe, today. And they were supposed to go about 2:30, 2:35, and they end up going 2:07. That's why they went significantly slower. I don't even know what the time of the first Sportscasters Derby was, but they went significantly slower in the first run. But they let them cook a little bit. It was great. It's an amazing experience. It's a fun night out with the family. It was great meeting a ton of people outside as well that were fans and everything like that. So on the whole, couldn't have asked for anything more. And you were victorious. Congratulations, Keith. It was awesome.
Thank you. Yes. Well, and more importantly for me, Memorial Sloan Kettering was victorious, which was amazing. Again, I've told the story. My mother-in-law was treated by them for almost 20 years. We lost my mother-in-law a little bit over a year ago, and the doctors and all the nurses and everybody that was there at MSK were always so, you hear all these stories about sometimes people are just like a science project when they're sick. They never treated my mother-in-law like that at all. She was always a person to them, no matter what surgeries and what they needed to do, trying to not get emotional here. But yeah, they were like fantastic to her.
That's awesome. I mean,
and to all of us, our family as well.
Yeah.
Like they always kept us.
Yeah, great. It's a fun event, everything. And it was great seeing Don and Willie out there. I've not seen, I saw Don during the playoffs. I've not seen Willie in a while. Great to see him and his wife and his 2 kids, and they're adorable. Yeah. And seeing those guys, seeing Maria and everyone. So cool event, fun event. Love going out to the track and spending a couple hours out there and having a really, really cool, fun experience because
and I got to meet your pops.
Yes, you got to meet my dad. Correct.
Oh, that was fantastic. What a nice guy.
Yeah, my dad's
and Gregory for the first time too. Jackson, I know we had on the air once, and I got to meet Gregory as well.
So it was cool all the way in and around.
Yeah.
But that does it for us. We're flat out of time.
Yes.
Wow. Thanks to Ernie. Thanks to Yaron for joining us earlier on the program. You guys as well. Nick and Joe, great job as well putting together that package and that piece. Great for coming out on Friday night. We'll see you tomorrow at 10.